Scott? Scott?
The Man in the Shadows, directed by Joshua Freeman, also known as Shadow Man. Now this one stars Sarah Jurgens, and she plays Rachel, who is a woman plagued by visions of a strange, shadowy figure that kind of lurks around in the periphery, wearing a kind of what seemingly like a fedora and a long trench coat. And she's basically going to a variety of kind of addiction type places. She has to take drugs for a medical condition, and she's being menaced, and no one believes her. Her husband basically is kind of just thinks she's got some kind of mental disorder, and she's kind of projecting because he had an affair, and he feels like it's kind of the guilt projecting and stuff like that. But she is genuinely menaced by some kind of spirit, and she finds solace in another member of this kind of like this group, basically, who does believe her, who may have experienced things themselves, and together, can they find the answers to defeat the Shadow Man? So let's talk about this film, what worked and what didn't. Like, first thing what worked for me was the lead actress here, Sarah Jurgens. I thought she did a pretty good job here, a fairly solid performance. There's a couple of great sequences where she's kind of waking up from dreams, and she does seem genuinely terrified. And she goes through a great kind of gambit of emotions, from kind of being quite playful to being kind of hurt. So I think the acting from her part, at least, was pretty good. And I always think it's kind of quite fun when you have these kind of horror films that are based on a kind of a particular legend or a particular myth. And Shadow People is what this is based on, is one such thing. Now, I've got to say, to be honest with you, though, the film didn't really work for me. Most of this film is like couples therapy. It's essentially this couple kind of going on through a back and forth, and the story really doesn't go anywhere. And when we do finally have the kind of the showdown with the Shadow Man, it's very disappointing, and he just comes across like a poorly digitized slasher and killing people with a kind of a knife, and the effects that they've used to kind of like making kind of blurry. It just looks like clearly digital effects. So the actual supernatural side of stuff, unfortunately, isn't particularly good. There are a couple of flashes here and there that we sort of see that are slightly more effective. But ultimately, the story is so slow and drags its heels, and it just kind of bogs down by so many kind of like seemingly inconsequential scenes of kind of conversations about, I mean, the kind of the marriage and stuff like that. And to be honest, it really seems like that's the focus of this story, when it doesn't have anything to do with really the Shadow Man itself, other than the fact that, you know, they have some marital problems. So sadly, this film doesn't really work for me. I thought it was kind of quite sloppily written. There's some things here that kind of don't really kind of make sense. Can't really go into too many spoilers, but it just ultimately comes across as a somewhat disappointing film. Decently performance, and a kind of a good idea. I don't think this is the first Shadow Man type of film that I've seen. So I'm sure there are a few others as well. So ultimately disappointing. I'm going to give this movie a 3 out of 10. Not worth your time, in my opinion. Sorry to anyone who is involved in this film, with the exception of Sarah Jurgens, who I thought was quite a good actress. But all the other performances as well, I've got to say, are quite hammy. Particularly the husband. Didn't really buy his character at all. So it really was a bit of a miss for me, I'm sorry to say. 3 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me comments. And I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.